What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again to the channel. And before we get into today's video, make sure to subscribe and sack that like button. We just hit 300 subscribers. We surpassed another goal. Now my new goal is to get to 325 subscribers before the end of the year. So without further ado, let's begin. In this video, I'm going to be doing my post-week 11 power rankings. So coming in at number 32, it's still the Texans, who just do not look like an NFL franchise right now. Coming in at number 31, I have the Panthers. Baker Mayfield, I think, is done as a starter in the NFL after this year. This team is going to hit a complete rebuild heading into next year. Coming in at number 30, I have the Bears, who they had a double dip of shit on Sunday. They lost the game, and their star quarterback might be out for the rest of the year. Coming in at number 29, I have the Jaguars, who had a bye week this week. Coming in at number 28, I have the Broncos, who blew it against the Raiders, had the lead with the ball with about a minute and a half to go, wound up losing the game eventually in overtime. Coming in at number 27, the Raiders, who got the win, but this team's season is still pretty much over. Davante Adams kind of made himself look like a clown, waving goodbye to the Broncos fans after that walk-off touchdown. Sure, it's a nice win, but come on, dude. Coming in at number 26, I have the Steelers, who now lost to the Bengals. I think their playoff hopes are pretty much done. The rest of this season is kind of a Kenny Pickett learning process and, transitioning into their new era. Coming in at number 25, I have the Browns, who just really had a shot to beat the Bills, but, they made too many mistakes early on when they could have built a lead, and they wound up losing. Coming in at number 24, I have the Rams, who I think it's time to just accept this year is not it. Move on to 2023. Don't let Cooper Kupp or Matthew Stafford play again this year before you brutally injure them for maybe even longer. Let this year just ride it out. Coming in at number 23, I have the Saints. Andy Dalton had, I think, his best game as a Saint. Big performance for him. Saints are still in a hole though. Coming in at number 22, I have the Cardinals, who lost to the 49ers. Not only did they lose, they got blown out in Mexico City last night. Coming in at number 21, I have the Packers, who after the big win against the Cowboys, some people thought maybe they could pivot and start winning more games. Lost to the Titans, so they're kind of done. Coming in at number 20, I have the Colts, who had to lead the whole game against the Eagles and then lost it in the final 2 minutes. Tough loss for the Colts. Coming in at number 19, I have the Falcons, who did get the win over the Bears, but Kyle Pitts, it's feared he tore his MCL, and a nightmarish season for Kyle Pitts gets even worse now. Coming in at number 18, I have the Lions, who got a big win over the Giants. If they can, I'm still not really that convinced by them. They're still 4-6. If they can win this Thursday on Thanksgiving against the Bills and hit 5-6 and have won 4 in a row, then it's a team that I think becomes a team you got to look at maybe to try and make a playoff push if they do that. Coming in at number 17, I have the Jets. You gotta make a change at quarterback. I get that your options aren't good, and Zach Wilson's a guy you drafted number 2 overall. So in most cases, you may want to just let him ride it out before you end this tenure with Zach Wilson. But the thing is, I think this is a team that can compete now, and he is really holding them back. So you gotta make a move. Coming in at number 16, I have the Commanders, who, they would be higher, but, there's so many, the teams are so, everything's jumbled up, and there's a lot of tough teams, but, they, after a 1-4 start, are now at 6-5 and headed in the right direction. Coming in at number 15, I have the Patriots, who got that win over the Jets, that punt return with 5 seconds remaining in the game. Their offense really struggled in this game, but, at the end of the day, they did get the win. It was a very Patriots-like win to a very large extent. Coming in at number 14, I have the Chargers, who lost to the Chiefs. They just cannot beat the Chiefs. I think it's time they just request a transfer out of that division. Coming in at number 13, I have the Seahawks, who had a bye week this week. Coming in at number 12, I have the Bengals, who got out the win in a high-scoring game against the Steelers. They are hanging around there in the AFC playoff picture. They got two big games coming up against the Titans and the Chiefs, two playoff rematches. Coming in at number 11, I have the Giants, who lost to the Lions. Their offense really struggled in that game, could not get anything going, which is pretty concerning against that Lions defense. Daniel Jones, I just really am not sold on Daniel Jones, and the problem too is now, Sterling Shepard is out for the year. He was already out for the year. They traded away Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs, which was dumb. Now Wan'Dale Robinson is out for the year, their rookie wide receiver who is really coming on, which leaves you really with only Kenny Golladay as your only legitimate receiver, a guy who hasn't been able to fit in on this offense. So receiver is a major issue for them, and Saquon Barkley cannot, carry this team on his back, as we saw against the Lions, because the Lions just stacked the box against them, and the Giants couldn't take advantage of, that and push the ball downfield. Coming in at number 10, I have the Ravens, who had a weird win against the Panthers. I was surprised that the Ravens were unable to get things going offensively. I thought they matched up really well against them, since the Panthers have a bad run D and the Ravens are great at running it. I thought the Ravens would be running all over them, but they really struggled in that game, and the Panthers were in it throughout most of the game, but the Ravens did get the win. They are still on top of the AFC North. Coming in at number 9, I have the Titans, and to make it clear, I understand the Giants beat both the Ravens and the Titans. The Titans game was all the way back in week 1 off of a fluky game. I think the Titans are the better team, and with the Ravens, I think the Ravens are also the better team. So I can see how you can make an argument the Giants should be ahead of them, but a team that just lost the way they did to the Lions, I just think, you gotta put these two ahead. But back to the Titans, a good team win for them over the Packers. Derrick Henry came through in key situations on those 3rd and shorts. Their defense was able to shut down the Packers offense for the most part. Titans have definitely righted the ship since the slow start this year. Coming in at number 8, I have the Buccaneers, who had a bye week this week. Coming in at number 7, I have the 49ers, who got a blowout win over the Cardinals, as I mentioned earlier. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, had his best performance since 2019, 3 years ago. He had 4 touchdown passes, and he did a really good job of spreading the ball around. If Jimmy Garoppolo can play like he did last night, spreading the ball around to all his playmakers, and George Kittle, Debo, and McCaffrey there in full swing, and then guys who can step in like Brandon Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell, this team's going to be pretty unstoppable in the playoffs. Coming in at number 6, I have the Bills. Now, the Bills, they really got off to a slow start against the Browns, and really, that wasn't really so much about the Bills beating the Browns. It was more about the Browns beating themselves. But to be fair to the Bills, they were coming off of a pretty rough loss, and to add to it, they hadn't really practiced all week because they were in Buffalo, then they had to go to Detroit, and they didn't arrive in Detroit until late Saturday night, I believe. So it almost makes sense you were a bit out of whack and out of sorts, so that is a legitimate excuse, but something is off about the Bills' offense. Coming in at number 5, I have the Dolphins, who had a bye week this week. Coming in at number 4, I have the Vikings, who got steamrolled by the Cowboys 40-3. Now, to be fair here, as I mentioned in my preview video, which is why I ultimately picked the Cowboys, the Vikings were coming off of a euphoric win while the Cowboys were coming off of a rough loss, and usually after a big, euphoric, wild win like that, teams that following week kind of come back down to earth, and especially against a team that's kind of angry. It's almost like a guy who is super hungover from a huge party the night before runs into an angry guy who's something really pissed them off the night before, and they fight. It was kind of like that, and I think if these two teams do play again in the playoffs, I'm not saying the Cowboys would lose. I think it would be a very tight game that could go either way. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched at their core, but I will say this, I did not expect it to be this blowout to be to this extent. I thought the Cowboys would get off to a fast start, which they did, but then I thought the Vikings would close the gap and kind of wake up as the game went on and kind of make it a little bit closer or a little more respectable, which they never did, and part of that may have been due to the injured offensive line, which could be a factor moving forward. And then coming in at number 3, the Cowboys, who, Tony Pollard had a huge game. The offensive line was playing great. It felt like Dak Prescott had 30 seconds to throw back there. I mean, wow. Coming in at number 2, I have the Eagles, who got back on track on a big win over the Colts. The defense really stepped up in that game, and Jalen Hurts made the plays he needed to there at the end with the game-winning touchdown. I think the Eagles are fine. And then coming in at number 1, I got my Kansas City Chiefs. I'm moving them up to number 1 because they do look like the best overall team. They beat the Chargers. The Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce connection is unstoppable, and the Chiefs defense is able to get stops when they need to. Comment down below what you guys think about all this, and other than that, I'll see you guys next time.